My name is Andrew Henderson. I'm the author of this now classic book called Nomad Capitalist, and today I'm answering your questions on how to get citizenship in Argentina. So my team and I just recently came back from Buenos Aires, where we filmed the latest episode of Live Like a King. You can find that on livelikeakingtv.com. But we asked for you to send in your questions about Argentina citizenship, because there are some misconceptions about this. One of the things that people point out about citizenship in Argentina is if you are born there, and in many cases, if you're naturalized there, you cannot give up that citizenship. It's a human rights issue. And so that's something that does put some people off. But yet, the fact that you can get citizenship there in 2 years, the fact that the country is so far removed from the rest of the chaos of the world, and the fact that they've got a new president who appears to be turning things around has created a lot of interest. So let's get started with the first question. What is the actual timing to claim citizenship in Argentina? This is a good question because you could apply for citizenship there after 2 years of continuous legal residence in the country, whether that's temporary or permanent. Argentina has always been pretty flexible. I mean, they've even naturalized illegal immigrants over the years. This has been a place that's been extremely easy to immigrate to. But when you ask about the actual timing, there's going to be a timeline in which you apply for the residence permit. You have to gather all your different documents. This is something that we help our clients do. It's a paperwork shuffle. And you've got to present those, and you've got to then get the residence permit. And once you get that permit in hand, then the clock starts. Once that clock starts, it runs in this case for 2 years. Then you start the application process. It's another paperwork shuffle, and there's another, wait. So the idea that 2 years from today you're going to be a citizen is inaccurate. How long can you get your paperwork done? Plus the 2 years, plus the application period. This is one reason our clients come to us, because we handle the paperwork for them, and it saves them, in some cases, months, and they get the result a lot faster. How long does it take to get Argentine citizenship through naturalization? And so this is more about the actual application. After applying, the process can take between 6 and 24 months, with the average being about 18 months, so about 1.5 years. This is information direct from our Nomad Capitalist R&D team. We have several people on it in Latin America, and the head of that team was recently with me in Buenos Aires and met some folks in the government to talk about these issues. One thing that they wanted to disclaim was after the reforms ordered by President Milei just in the last few weeks, the process may involve stricter judicial scrutiny and potentially extend the timeline for citizenship approval. So it's been very easy to get citizenship in Argentina and other countries in that region. Paraguay was one that cracked down a number of years ago and made it harder. Argentina is now doing that, where they're probably going to take a bit more of a look at all the people applying, and that might mean the process takes longer. So you need to get the residence permit, then you have to wait 2 years, but then you might be waiting another 2 years to actually get the passport. And so that's one reason why some people will look at citizenship by investment programs, for example, because it's just one 9-12 month process to get the passport soup to nuts. Do you have to live there the whole time you're waiting for citizenship? So Argentina has never been what we call a paper residence. A paper residence is where you go and you get a residence permit, and you don't have to live there to start the clock going. So one quasi-paper residence permit that people talk about is Mexico, where you can get a residence permit, and for the first several years, you don't have to live there at all. You just let the clock run out, and then in your last 2 years before applying for citizenship, you move and you spend most of your time there. Argentina, it only is a 2-year process, so they want you to spend the majority of your time there. You are expected to reside there. Most of these people, like in the judicial process, they don't understand, like, wait a second, you have different homes? It's like, no, do you live here or do you not? And so you've got to make the case to them that you do live there. The president has also issued a decree ordering that physical presence must now be 100% interrupted. So you want to keep that in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is that Argentina, despite having a very libertarian president, still has relatively high taxes. And generally speaking, you're going to be paying taxes. So you always have to consider, it's only 2 years, and I'm not paying a donation like I would for Caribbean citizenship by investment. I'm going to save, $250,000 potentially, but what am I paying in terms of taxes? And so, we have clients who they make $1 million a year. If they move to Argentina, they'd be better off potentially just getting citizenship in the Caribbean, unless they actually want to live in Argentina. They're happy to pay the taxes as they cost. What is the process for obtaining permanent residence? Now remember, to get citizenship, you don't have to go to the permanent residence step first. So PR is granted after holding temporary residence for 2 years if you are a applicant coming from another Mercosur country, so another South American country by and large, or 3 years for those from outside of Mercosur. That's the rest of us. Estimated processing time takes anywhere from 6 weeks to up to 6 months to get your permanent residence. But the thing is, you could potentially just skip from temporary residence right to citizenship if you want that. There are some countries where you'd say, hey, I'd rather just be a permanent resident and not naturalize if you don't like the idea that Argentina has been historically difficult at letting you renounce your citizenship, then maybe you just want to have a permanent residence that really doesn't require you to put in the same effort as a temporary one. But for me, Latin American countries are ones where you can go to and you can work towards citizenship. You will need to learn some Spanish, by the way. The biggest group that I've heard concerned about not being able to renounce the citizenship in Argentina are Americans who look at the US policy of citizenship-based taxation. I think Argentina has historically had enough challenges collecting taxes from people who live in their country, let alone people who live somewhere else. I really don't see a country like Argentina going down that path. I'm not a big fan of not being able to renounce, but I understand that they see it as a human rights issue, and so you've got to kind of factor those things in. Difference between permanent residence and citizenship. So a permanent resident can live and work in Argentina indefinitely, but they don't have political rights like voting, and you don't hold a passport. And so depending on where you're coming from, you might not need an Argentina passport. Let's say you're from Canada and you plan on always being a Canadian citizen. You say, hey, I can travel pretty much wherever I want. Why do I need a second passport? Well, we've been telling you why you need a second passport for a dozen years. The political rights like voting, probably not a big deal. The passport could be beneficial. People who do business in Eastern Europe or who have business or family in Russia would benefit from having a passport of a country like Argentina where they have those good relationships. I do think, as the world becomes more multipolar, it'll be more neutral countries that kind of keep their nose out of things like Argentina that will have better and better visa-free travel to most countries. It's true, if you're a citizen of Argentina, you cannot use that passport to travel to the US without getting a visa. But there's 195 other countries out there. If you don't have a good passport right now, Argentina is one of the better passports in the world that's going to improve your ability to travel. Plus, having citizenship there gives you certain rights within Mercosur in South America. How much do residency and naturalization cost? Well, whatever it costs, it's worth it. Just to get citizenship through naturalization, if you qualify to get a passport because you've lived somewhere, I don't really think it matters what they charge you because it's going to be a heck of a lot less than getting a passport any other way. Naturalization filing in court is free. Legal fees for attorney representation will be extra. Obviously, we help people get residence permits, get citizenships all around the world. The lawyers that we work with tend to be a bit more expensive. There's obviously a whole spectrum of lawyers in Argentina like there would be anywhere else. Naturalization certificate costs $175 US and a national ID is $15. So naturalization is really the most affordable way if you don't count any potential tax costs while you live there to get a second passport. What is the minimum physical presence required for citizenship? Again, the presidential decree issued by Javier Milei orders that this should be modified to make physical presence now be 100% interrupted. So are you willing to go and spend 2 years in Argentina and stay there? For me, Buenos Aires is an interesting city, but it's not the only thing in Argentina. Argentina is a huge country. You've got great wine regions. They're very proud of Patagonia and all the great food that comes from there. There's a lot of stuff to explore in Argentina. The reality is, you could do it in less than 10 years, but if you're going to live a normal day-to-day life in the city of your choice, there's plenty of things you can do to enjoy yourself for 2 years. This is not like, living in Andorra where you've got to wait decades to get citizenship and you're in some, little country. So the bottom line is, if you're going to live there and you really want a high chance of getting citizenship, you should be in the country for those 2 years. Another question asks, what's the success rate of getting citizenship after 2 years? And this is an issue because I've told you for about a decade that Panama, for example, very neutral country, good passport to have. It's 5 years before you can apply for naturalization, but it requires the president's signature on every naturalization. And for the longest time, the president just didn't sign. Well, now there's a new president, and they're starting to clear that backlog. It'll take a while, but what I'm told from our R&D team is people are going to start being naturalized in Panama. And so that's something that you want to ask yourself. If I'm committing this time, and especially if I'm paying taxes, which Argentina has high taxes, Panama, if your income is from overseas, does not, you want to make sure you can get the passport. The success rate, according to the R&D team, is high for applicants who meet the 2-year residence requirement, have no criminal record, show cultural and social integration, such as owning property, having some kind of economic activity in Argentina. Maybe you work for your own company and you pay yourself a salary, social activities, join a social club. Usually judges, who are the ones who look at these applications in Argentina, it's a civil law system. They will want to have a 10-minute talk with you in Spanish about topics that are relevant or common in Argentinian culture to see if you can communicate with the locals on a daily basis. So even something as simple, in my opinion, as read the local news, see what's going on. I'm a big fan of not getting too much into local politics, because why do you want to go being angry with politics in your country to go being angry with politics over here? But you do want to keep up with the local news, what's happening, even if it's just what's happening in sport. I mean, great sport culture in Argentina. So be able to have a conversation and understand that in Argentina, it is judges who rule in on citizenship applications. And before we get to the last question, if you're looking to relocate somewhere overseas, whether it's for lower taxes, better quality of life, better quality food, more safety, we help clients from all around the world move to places all around the world. We've helped our clients move to 31 different tax-friendly countries, as well as a few not-so-tax-friendly countries like Argentina. We help people get residence permits in places like Argentina they can keep in their back pocket. We help people get citizenships, protect their assets, open bank accounts around the world, all under one roof. If you want to put our unique experience to work for you, to reduce your taxes, protect your assets, and get a plan B in place, go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply. We also help people put their plan A in place, which is, I want to move somewhere. Here's the last question. Can Indian citizens get Argentine citizenship easily with passive income? According to the R&D team, yes, provided they meet the requirements and can show legal entry of that stable, sufficient income. Certainly, in my opinion, in Latin America in general, and my feeling is that Argentina is a little bit less strict on this, although they may be picking up, Latin America likes people from countries they know about. So, when I took some people from my team from Georgia to Argentina, one of them kind of got like, hey, where's your country? Not so bad as other Spanish-speaking countries. I remember we were in Paraguay, and they spent 20 minutes with one of the girls because the guy's literally Googling, is Georgia a country? He didn't know, because like the language looked weird. He didn't know. Argentina I found was better, but I found around Latin America, if you have a US passport, a Canadian passport, European passport, they like that a bit more. I feel like India is pretty open. I think there's some countries in Latin America that are just going to be like, India, we're just going to make you wait. We're just going to effectively reject you without rejecting you. I think Argentina is pretty open. That's my feeling. Everyone's mileage is going to vary. So those are answers to your questions on moving to Argentina. Again, before you decide to go to one country, you want to consider all your options. That's what we help our clients do. You can always go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply. We can help you go through all the different places in the world that you can move.